You're standing among gods. In front of you is a being that cannot be harmed. Spears, stones, hammers fly toward him and bounce away as if the world itself refuses to let them land. Laughter spreads across Asgard. What should be impossible has become entertainment. It feels like nothing can break this moment, but there is always a moment before everything changes. And somewhere in that laughter stands one who already understands how fragile it really is. Because even immortality has a weak point. Baldur was not just another god among many. He was something rare, even for the Aesir. Light, not as a metaphor, but as presence. Wherever he walked, there was calm. No conflict lingered near him. No shadow seemed to stay for long. He was trusted without question, loved without exception. And that made him different from all the others. Yet the first crack did not appear in the world. It appeared in a dream. Baldur began to see visions, dark, heavy, repeating. Not vague symbols, but something far more direct. His own end, again and again. There was no escaping it, no waking relief. For mortals, a nightmare fades with daylight. For gods, it lingers, and it means something. When the dreams were spoken aloud, the atmosphere in Asgard shifted. What had always felt eternal suddenly felt uncertain. Even Odin, who had seen more than any of them, did not dismiss it. Because knowledge in his world often comes at a cost, and sometimes it comes too late. Frigg refused to accept it. If fate could be seen, then perhaps it could also be stopped. She chose action over fear. Her journey was not simple. It was not quick. She moved through the layers of existence itself, speaking not only to beings but to forces, to things that do not think, yet still hold power. Fire which consumes, water which drowns, stone which crushes, iron which cuts, even illness, even age. She asked for one thing, and everything answered. Nothing would harm Baldur, not by accident, not by intent. The world had given its word, and in that moment it seemed stronger than fate itself. When she returned, something changed in Asgard. The fear was gone, replaced by something else, confidence. That confidence turned into curiosity, and curiosity turned into a game. At first it may have felt harmless, a way to prove that the threat was gone, that the dreams meant nothing. They began to test it. A stone was thrown, nothing. A blade followed, nothing. Then more. Spears, axes, anything within reach. Nothing touched him, nothing could. Baldur stood in the center of it all, untouched, almost glowing as everything failed to reach him. And the gods laughed, not out of cruelty but relief. They believed they had won. But perfection has a way of attracting attention, especially from those who do not trust it. Loki did not laugh. He watched, carefully, silently. Where others saw certainty, he saw a question that had not been fully answered, because nothing is ever truly protected from everything. There is always an exception. He did not rush. He did not guess. He searched, and eventually he found what no one else thought to look for. Mistletoe, a small plant, young, fragile, growing quietly, unnoticed. It had never been asked, never bound by any promise. It existed outside the protection that covered everything else. It was not powerful. It was not dangerous. But it didn't need to be. It only needed to be overlooked. Loki understood something the others did not. It is not strength that breaks perfection. It is precision. He shaped the mistletoe into a weapon, not large, not impressive, something that could pass unnoticed even among gods, a weapon that did not rely on force, only on direction. The moment had to be right, not dramatic, not obvious, just aligned. The game was still happening. Nothing had changed on the surface. Laughter still echoed, weapons still flew, and none of them mattered. Among the gods stood Hodder, still, silent, separate, blind. He could not see the game, could not see the target, could not take part in what everyone else was enjoying. He stood outside of it, and that made him different. Different was enough. Loki approached him, not with force, not with urgency, just with intent. A hand guided, a weapon placed, a direction given. No one noticed, because nothing unusual seemed to be happening. The throw was simple, unremarkable, almost invisible in the chaos of everything else. But this time, it did not bounce. The mistletoe moved cleanly, effortlessly, as if nothing stood in its way. It passed through what could not be touched. Balder fell. There are moments when sound disappears. Not because nothing is happening, but because everything is happening at once. This was one of those moments. The laughter stopped. The movement stopped. Even thought seemed to stop. Then came the realization, slow, heavy, unavoidable. The one thing that could not happen had already happened. Balder didn't rise. There was no second attempt, no correction, no reversal. Something fundamental had been broken, and everyone felt it. Grief in Asgard was not loud. It was deep. It settled into everything. Because this was more than loss. It was proof that fate had not been avoided, only delayed. The farewell was prepared as it should be for one who meant everything. A great ship, massive, silent, waiting. Balder was placed upon it. But when the gods tried to move it, it would not move. It was as if the world itself resisted letting him go. Or perhaps it was the weight of what had happened. Strength was not enough. Even for gods, a giantess was called. She arrived without ceremony. No grief, no hesitation. Only action. With a single push, the ship moved, and the ground trembled beneath it. The fire was lit. Flames rose, consuming what once brought light to everything. But fire does not return what is lost. It only marks the end. Still, not all hope was gone. Not yet. A journey began, into a place where even gods do not belong. Hermod rode into the realm of the dead, through darkness that doesn't lift, across distances that do not shorten. 9 nights, no rest, no certainty. He reached the end, or what felt like one. A single condition stood between loss and return. Everything must weep. Not most, not almost all, everything. And so it began. The world responded. Not by command, but by truth. Tears came from everywhere. From those who understood, and those who did not. From life, from stillness, from things that had never mattered before. It seemed impossible to fail, but perfection had already failed once, and it failed again. Somewhere, hidden from the rest, there was one who did not weep. No reason, no explanation, just refusal. And that was enough. The condition was broken. The chance was gone. Balder remained where he had fallen, beyond reach. The truth did not stay hidden forever. It never does. Loki, again, not through power, not through force, but through understanding exactly where to act. After that, there was no balance left to restore, only consequences. Loki was found, bound, left to endure what he had set in motion. But punishment does not undo events. It only follows them. Balder's fall was not the end. It was the beginning of something far greater. A chain had been set, and it could not be broken. Ragnarok was no longer distant. It was inevitable. And it all began with something small, something ignored, something dismissed as harmless. Because the most dangerous thing is not what looks powerful. It is what no one thinks to question. Fate does not always arrive with noise. It does not need to. Sometimes it arrives quietly, and by the time it is noticed, it is already too late.